Join the Thinking in English Conversation Club right now. For just $2 a week, you can join with other English learners, practice speaking, have conversations, enjoy yourself, and use new vocabulary. We run conversation clubs every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 p.m, 6 p.m, and 9 p.m. UK time. So there's no excuse. You can join, and you should join right now. Join the Thinking in English Conversation Club, link in the description. Hello, I'm Tom Wilkinson, and welcome to the Thinking in English podcast, a podcast for intermediate to advanced level English learners. Who was the richest person in history? Today, I want to tell you all about an African emperor who had levels of wealth considered unbelievable and incomprehensible. Let's learn while practicing our English. You can find the full transcript of today's episode over on the Thinking in English blog, the link's in the description. Check out my Instagram page and my YouTube channel, both called Thinking in English Podcast. Join my conversation groups over on Patreon, and leave me a like, rating or review wherever you are listening right now. Here is today's vocabulary list. As always, the written vocabulary list is available in the description of the podcast and also on my blog, thinkinginenglish.blog. Net worth. Net worth. The value of the assets, so property and money, that a person or business has after any debt is taken away. For example, he has a net worth of about £70 million. Wealth. Wealth. A large amount of money or valuable possessions that someone has. For instance, during a successful business career, she accumulated a great amount of wealth. Value. Value. The amount of money that can be received for something. As in, what is the value of that prize? To estimate. To estimate. To guess or calculate the cost, size, value, etc. of something. As in, they estimate that the journey will take at least 2 weeks. Incomprehensible. Incomprehensible. Impossible or extremely difficult to understand. For example, the student's essay was almost incomprehensible. From head to toe. From head to toe. Completely covering your body. As in, the dog was covered from head to toe in mud. Generous. Generous. Willing to give money, help, kindness, especially more than is usual or expected. For example, he was a very generous man. Renowned. Renowned. Famous for something. For example, the region is renowned for its natural beauty. Last year, I wrote an article about Elon Musk. He was the richest person in the world. In November 2021, at the peak of his wealth, Musk was estimated to be worth $340 billion. His ownership of Tesla, the world's most valuable car manufacturer, was the main reason for Musk's incredible net worth. In 2021, the company was worth close to $1 trillion, making it one of the most valuable companies in the world and worth as much as the next 10 car manufacturers combined. As well as Tesla, Musk owns SpaceX, Neuralink, The Boring Company, and had previously earned millions from investments in early internet companies like PayPal. He was the richest person in the world. Now, at the beginning of 2023, Musk is no longer the richest person in the world. In fact, he has lost the highest amount of wealth in history. He is the first person to ever lose $200 billion in wealth. Today, the Bloomberg Billionaires Index estimates him to be worth $137 billion. Now, it's important to point out that Musk is still the second richest person on the planet, behind Bernard Arnault. He is by no means unsuccessful or poor, but losing $200 billion in wealth in 1 year is very impressive. Why did Musk lose so much wealth in 2022? Well, the main reason is that the value of Tesla fell by 65% last year. People have always questioned Tesla's high stock prices and value. In fact, in a very early episode of this podcast, I discussed the exact topic. Is Tesla really worth more than all other car manufacturers? How could the company be worth more than the next 10 largest manufacturers combined, despite producing only a small number of cars? The value of Tesla, which gives Musk most of his wealth, was reduced, and this caused Musk's net worth to fail. Moreover, his purchase of Twitter for $40 billion also affected him. After reading about the vast amounts of wealth and money earned and lost by the world's billionaires over the past year, it made me think. Who was the richest person ever? Was Elon Musk, at the peak of his wealth, the richest man to ever live? The answer is probably not. There are many people throughout history who could claim to be the richest person ever. But today, I want to focus on one of the most famous candidates. This individual had levels of wealth considered impossible to describe. But first, we need to think a little about wealth. What does it mean to be rich? Now, this could be a podcast topic on its own, and it probably will be one day. For modern billionaires, companies like Bloomberg or Forbes do a lot of calculations and research to estimate wealth. I'll leave a link to Bloomberg's methodology in the blog or on the transcript. But in simple terms, they try to discover everything that a billionaire owns, so all of their assets, and then put a value on those things. It's a lot more complicated than that, but I'm not an economist or financial advisor. This is why Elon Musk's net worth plunged last year. He owns Tesla, a very valuable company. When Tesla became less valuable, Musk's wealth goes down. When it becomes more valuable, it goes up. His wealth is tied to his company. But how do you estimate the net worth of people living in the past? It's not an easy task. You have to take into account the value of things they owned at the time and adjust these estimations in our modern currencies. And there have been some incredibly wealthy individuals. Augustus Caesar, Emperor of Rome, is estimated by many to be the richest person in history. His personal wealth, if you include the value of his empire, was enormous. Other emperors like Emperor Shenzong of Song China, Genghis Khan of Mongolia, and King Solomon of Israel are rumored to have been trillionaires by modern standards. But today, I want to talk about another candidate for the title of richest person ever. Mansa Musa. If you search richest person to ever live in Google, you will likely find the name Mansa Musa. His wealth was incomprehensible and indescribable. He gave so much gold away as gifts on a trip that he caused recessions and crises across North Africa. That's right, he gave away so much gold that he accidentally ruined economies. But who was Mansa Musa? Mansa Musa lived around 700 years ago, in the 14th century. He was the ruler or sultan of the Mali Empire in West Africa. Mansa, in the Mandinka language, literally means emperor or sultan. Europe in the 14th century was struggling. Wars and other problems damaged Europe's economy. Mali, on the other hand, was thriving. Mansa Musa's family was the ruling dynasty, the ruling family of the region. Musa's older brother became the leader of the country first. His name was Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr, however, had bigger ambitions than being the leader of Mali. He wanted to sail across the ocean and see what was on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. Mansa Abu Bakr abdicated the throne in 1312 and took 2,000 ships on an expedition across the Atlantic Ocean. He never returned. Mansa Musa replaced his brother as ruler. The Kingdom of Mali was already an incredibly wealthy place. It was probably the largest gold producer in the entire world, owning around half of the total gold supply around the globe. So 50% of all gold was in Mali. In the years after taking over the leadership, Musa managed to expand the kingdom's influence, grow their economy, and increase the country's wealth. In particular, he worked to increase the trade routes in the West African region, sending gold, salt, and elephant ivory across the continent. Mali's empire also grew under his reign. It has been reported that under Musa, Mali never lost a war or battle. He took over new cities and territories, including the famous city Timbuktu. In fact, it has been suggested many cities wanted to join the Mali Empire as it was so powerful and wealthy. Eventually, the kingdom spread across West Africa from the Atlantic Ocean to the Sahara Desert. Modern-day countries including Senegal, Niger, Nigeria, Mauritania, Chad and Guinea were all part of this empire with Mali. His ownership of half of the world's gold, as well as highly valuable salt and ivory, were key parts of Musa's wealth. His land was extensive, and Musa controlled some of the most important trading routes in the world. It is difficult to estimate the wealth of a person from the past. Historians, however, suggest that today, Mansa Musa would be worth between $400 and $500 billion. An incredible amount. One of the most famous stories concerning Mansa Musa is his pilgrimage to Mecca. Musa was a devout and committed Muslim, and decided to visit the holiest site in Islam in the year 1324 for his Hajj pilgrimage. Musa travelled to Mecca in style. The trip from Mali involved crossing the African continent and the deserts of Central Africa. He used it as an opportunity to demonstrate Mali's power, wealth, and influence. Records suggest that Musa did not travel alone, but with 60,000 people. 60,000 people. Soldiers, royal officials, servants, and slaves made the journey. The Malians wore the finest and best silk clothes and gold jewellery. Even the slaves were covered from head to toe in gold. Musa brought hundreds of camels across the continent, each carrying bags of pure gold. After crossing the Sahara Desert, the travellers reached Egypt. In the city of Cairo, the Malians gave out generous gifts of gold across the city. They bought products in the city's markets, gave out gold to homeless and poor people, and gave presents to the royal family in Cairo. For Mali, the gifts were a demonstration of their power and resources. But for Egypt and the Egyptian economy, The gifts were damaging. Musa spent and gave away so much gold in the country that he caused the value of gold to drop in the entire region. If you are familiar with economics, you will know that the supply or amount of a resource is related to its price. As there was now so much gold in the Egyptian economy, the value of the metal dropped. Musa's spending caused massive inflation and resulted in an economic crisis that lasted for over a decade. So Musa bought so much stuff and gave out so many gifts and tips to people living in the city that gold was not really worth anything anymore. After returning to Mali, Musa dedicated his life to improving and rebuilding the cities of his country and the quality of life in his kingdom. Musa is known for his commitment to architecture, art, religion, and academics. He hoped to turn his land into a center for learning and study. He built new cities and buildings, libraries and schools. Timbuktu became a world-renowned city of education, culture, and knowledge. He brought scholars from the Middle East to teach and consult. He hired one of the most famous architects from Spain, which was Islamic at the time, to work with him in Mali. The stories of Mansa Musa were known outside of Africa and the Middle East. He was even pictured in the 1375 Catalan Atlas. The image showed him holding a gold staff, wearing a gold crown, and holding a piece of gold. Musa's wealth was inconceivable. No person alive today has come close to the resources or power controlled by him and his empire 700 years ago. So here is today's final thought. Who was the richest person ever? Today, I've highlighted the life of Mansa Musa, an African king or emperor who had indescribable levels of wealth. He controlled natural resources, large amounts of land, and built schools and libraries across his territory. Only other great emperors of China, Rome, Mongolia, and India are likely to have had a higher level of wealth than Musa. But what do you think? Have you heard the story of Mansa Musa before? Would you like to hear more about other incredibly wealthy people from the past? Let me know. Leave a comment on the blog or on Spotify, or send a message on Instagram. I love to hear from all of you. So please let me know, reach out, and maybe I can make an episode on something you suggest in the future. If you really like listening to Thinking in English, please consider leaving a rating or a review wherever you are listening right now. We're actually at 3,900 ratings on Spotify. So can we get to 4,000 5-star ratings by the end of this month? I haven't asked you guys to rate my podcast for a while. So I'm asking you now, if you haven't rated Thinking in English 5 stars, please do it today. I want my old goal, and I guess my goal now still, is to be the most liked, the most rated podcast for English learners on Spotify. And I think I'm probably one of the highest at the moment, but let's try and get higher. And if you enjoy listening, you might enjoy my YouTube channel, Thinking in English Podcast, over on YouTube. The link's in the description. And you can join our conversation club. In fact, you all should join our conversation club. You can practice speaking with English learners from around the world, from Japan and Taiwan and China, all the way to Italy and Poland and the Czech Republic and France, to Brazil and Mexico and Colombia, Ecuador and Peru. We have people from everywhere joining. They practice speaking, meet new people, share their culture and their experience, and study together. It's really amazing. So please consider joining if you can. And by joining, you're helping turn this into my job. You're helping to support the podcast as well. And we've just launched English classes. We're doing classes on Wednesdays, taught by Nathan from the Thinking in English team. So if you're interested in an English class, click the link in the description. They're $10 for a 45-minute class, or you can get a discount if you're a Patreon member, or you can get free classes if you're a second level Patreon member. If you pay more money on Patreon, you can get free classes. So yeah, please join the Patreon, take some classes, support the podcast, leave a rating, subscribe to me on YouTube, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.